Hello, everybody. You listen to J Movie Talk. This is officially Sports Movie Month for the month of June. This month, like I said on the last episode, I was going to be kicking it off with Bull Durham, which I will still be doing. That's going to be next week's episode. But I decided to make this month overall be Sports Movie Month, and there's a lot of different ways I could have went with this. But instead, I kind of spread it around as far as covering different sports. And I wanted each movie that I chose for this month to be a little different. So I'm starting off the month with this episode, with this movie, Draft Day, which I've heard about. I've seen, clips from it, but I had never actually watched it. So even though I'm already doing a Kevin Costner movie, Bull Durham, I said, it's kind of hard, well, I shouldn't say it's kind of hard. I mean, I could have avoided another Kevin Costner movie, but I really decided to do this movie because of the late Chadwick Boseman, because this was one of like his earlier roles, and everything. And I just wanted to like go back and revisit something that he started in early in his career. And yeah, that's the reasoning behind doing Draft Day. But then I ended up watching the movie and I was actually impressed by it. And I'm gonna get into it when I talk more about it, and everything. So yeah, this is Sports Movie Month. And I mean, it's kind of a good way to kind of kick it off. I mean, we passed the NFL draft, a while back, and it had some controversy behind it. So that's another reason why I wanted to do this movie, because the draft in this movie is steeped in controversy, and I highly doubt that a lot of the decision making that was done in this could happen in real life, even though from my understanding of what I read regarding the movie, that 2014's draft, somewhat similar, thing happened, in the draft or whatever and everything. Not to the extent of, and like I said, I'll talk about it when I get to it, but I just say that highly unlikely that a GM would be able to basically pull off the heist of the century, as far as the move that gets made in this movie's draft, and everything. But yeah, that's another reason why I decided to kind of do that. Plus, it's showing football in a different aspect, a different light, because it's not actually about what happens on the field. It's all about what goes on behind the scenes, and everything, which is a different take when you're talking about a sports movie. It's revolving around the sport, but it, to some degree, has nothing overall to do with what happens on the field. Dealing with the people, that makes the decisions and that are not on the field, and their real lives, like what they go through and how things affects them and things like that, which I thought was an interesting, different take on doing a sports movie. I mean, the only movie I can really think of like that, clearly I've not seen every sports movie, so I could be wrong, but the only other movie that I have seen that really kind of goes off into this, and everything. Well, actually, it's kind of, technically it's two, but one is because of what happens on the field, it affects what happens to people in their personal lives. I'm talking about Concussion, which is a movie I'd never watch again. Not because I don't think it's a bad movie. It just, I remember as a kid, as a teenager, really, witnessing in real time a lot of the things that was happening with those players as it was being discussed on TV and stuff like that. So I kind of already knew a lot of the backstories and each particular case, but then watching the movie and it's like, yeah, this is some sad shit, and it's very depressing. So that was a one and done movie for me. But the movie I was thinking of initially, comparison with this movie, was Jerry Maguire. And even though there are some football scenes in the movie, featuring Cuba Gooding Jr. as Rod Tidwell and everything, but the bulk of that movie and story is focused in Jerry's life and off the field, really. So that was the only other comparison I was trying to make with another movie like that. But I'm pretty sure there are some other sports movies that has this, but that doesn't focus so much on the field. So this movie was directed by Ivan Reitman, and this was actually his last film that he directed before he passed away. Granted, he passed away in 2022, but it was the last movie that he actually directed. For anyone who don't know who Ivan Reitman is, longtime director and everything. His son, Jason Reitman, is a director in his own, well-known director in his own right. But just some of the movies that Ivan Reitman is known for. He directed Meatballs in 1979, Stripes in 1981, Ghostbusters in 1984. Well, and it's kind of ironic, his first three big movies, they all feature Bill Murray and everything. He did a movie called Legal Eagles in 1986, Twins in 1988. He runs it back again with Ghostbusters in 1989, does Ghostbusters 2. Kindergarten Cop in 1990. So he liked working with Arnold Schwarzenegger as well. He does Dave in 1993. Again with Schwarzenegger and DeVito in 94, where he does Junior, which I don't know why that movie was made. Father's Day in 1997. 6 Days and 7 Nights in 1998. Evolution in 2001. My Super Ex-Girlfriend in 2006. No Strings Attached in 2011. And like I say, his last actual directed film in 2014 was Draft Day. So he's made a lot of, big movies, popular movies, well-known movies and everything. And ironically, I've actually seen quite a bit of these movies, and I enjoy the ones that I've seen. For the most part, like I say, Junior, that is still why, but it is what it is, and everything like that. And the cast for this movie, we have Kevin Costner as Sonny Weaver Jr., or as Chadwick Boseman character of Vontae Mack says, Mr. Sonny Weaver Jr., and everything, which I'm gonna talk about Chadwick in a minute. But Jennifer Garner, Frank Langella, Dennis Leary, Chai McBride, and then also Terry Crews is in this and everything. This movie is actually kind of riddled with well-known character actors. You might not know their names, but you know their face. Ellen Burstyn and Rosanna Arquette show up here, and it's like wow. It's like, okay, Reitman, he kind of pulled out some heavy hitters as far as the smaller actor cameos. And then of course you can't really do a sports movie without having actual people that's involved with football pop up in this thing. So you have a lot of NFL related personalities show up in this as well. I was pissed, of course, when Roger Goodell shows up, because it's like, got to see this son bitch. But at the same time, we are talking about the NFL draft, so of course he would be there to do the draft. But that aside, the cast overall, I was thoroughly pleased with the cast, even though there's one person that shows up in this movie that I was completely shocked by, and that's only because of his personal issues right now and the fact that he's on trial. And by me saying that should let people know who I'm talking about. So I was surprised when he showed up, but at the same time, he's not in this movie that much or makes so much of an impact that it would turn you away from the movie or anything. But it was just a type of moment when he shows up for the first time and kind of seeing him and everything. So the basic synopsis premise of this movie is one day, one draft. You got one GM trying to make the right call under pressure. And I mean, yes, that summarizes the movie, but at the same time, it's a little bit more to unpack than that. And so let's start unpacking some things, and let's start with talking about Kevin Costner and how, as good of a actor, filmmaker he is, one thing that Kevin Costner has always kind of leaned into, there's actually two things he's actually leaned into throughout his career. He's going to give you a Western, and it's going to be epic, or whatever. And he's going to give you some sports movies. And this sports movie is, very different from the ones that he did before. Of course, people talk about Field of Dreams, Bull Durham, which of course I'm going to be covering on the next episode. Then he goes into some golf with Tin Cup, him and Don Johnson, Cheech Marin, and everything, which is a fun movie. I mean, it's not on the level of these other movies, but it's still fun. And the fact that he wanted to go into a different, realm as far as sports. And then also For the Love of the Game, which is another baseball movie. So he really kind of loved to linger around in the baseball genre. He came out of it a few times with Tin Cup and with Draft Day. I think it'd be something if he ever did something basketball related, but I highly doubt it. And everything. Not because I don't think he could do it. I don't think, and I can't believe I'm actually saying I'm talking for Kevin Costner, because I've never met the man, probably never meet the man, but I don't think that anything truly resonates for him, at least as far as like a story. I mean, the closest would probably be something like being a general manager or something like that, but I don't think he would ever go into that realm. But it would be interesting to see him do something, again, football related though, and everything. But I mean, he pretty much is the driving force behind this movie, as from a character standpoint, because everything that happens in this movie is in relations to his character. And I think he does a very good job playing Sonny Weaver Jr., the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and everything. But he really goes through a lot in this day. And the fact that this movie takes, the time frame of the movie takes place in one single day is truly insane when you think about it. And everything. But it works. And it's like, as the movie progresses along, the pressure that leads up to the actual draft, it builds up. And I think Ivan Reitman does a great job of directing this movie as far as helping build that tension in certain ways. Because I think most movies, if they would have did this, I think they wouldn't have built the tension. Because it's not just about the draft. I mean, he has personal issues that he's dealing with as well, which factors into a lot of the decisions that he decides to make as far as what he wants the Cleveland Browns team to be. And I would say that this role, in a way, it does differ somewhat from what we might know of Kevin Costner in movies and things like that. I don't think anything will ever compare to what he did in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, because that is the only time that Kevin Costner, kind of went completely out of his, what was considered his wheelhouse as a character in movies. And I'm like, I wonder why he's never done that again. I mean, he's having a lot of fun. It's not a great movie by no stretch, but clearly he's having a lot of fun in that movie, and he's playing the villain. He's the villain in that movie, and you don't get that so much with him in movies. I think the only other movie I could really think of where he plays like a villain, straight up, is him in Mr. Brooks, and that is more of a, serial killer type thing and split personality type thing or whatever. But 3,000 Miles to Graceland, like I say, by no stretch is a good movie. It is a bad movie. I should say it's so bad it's good, at least. But if you want to see Kevin Costner completely going against type, I would suggest checking out 3,000 Miles to Graceland. So let's talk more about supporting cast. So of course, like I say, Jennifer Garner here. She plays the character of Allie, who is in charge of the salary cap and making sure that they can wheel and deal and everything like this. But also too, her and Sonny Weaver have a secret relationship, and that is one of the things that kind of plays out through the movie, even though it's not so much of a secret because other characters do know about their relationship. So it's like, yeah, y'all not really hiding this relationship so well, and everything. But I think she does a good job of playing off of Kevin Costner, and is actually like his, I would say his grounding compass. Like when things get crazy, Allie is the one that he goes to, and everything. And I actually like the moments between the two of them, especially there's a few times in the movie where he's taking her to a damn foul closet and everything, just so he can, as he says in the movie, can I just be with you for like 30 seconds without all of that noise out there and everything. It's like he wants her to be his peace, and I think she kind of knows it, but she wants him to say it also. So it's a little romance in this movie to a degree, relationship stuff, which I actually like, and everything. I don't know, maybe because I'm getting older and stuff like that. I'm starting to like stuff like this, and everything. Who knows? Maybe at some point I'll do a month or maybe a few movies that focus more on stuff like that, just to show a different side of Jay on a podcast talking about certain movies or whatever. But no, I think she's very good in this role and in this movie as well. Dennis Leary, of course, is doing Dennis Leary things. He's the kind of stubborn head coach of the Cleveland Browns, who he was the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys when they won a Super Bowl. And it's like, is he supposed to be Barry Switzer? Because 2014 is a hell of a long time since the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl. But that is his character, and his whole thing is that he wants to, make sure everybody on the Cleveland Browns gets a championship ring like what he has. And I would say that he plays a good foil to a degree to Sonny Weaver character, because like in some ways you actually kind of agree with when him and Sonny Weaver get into it, because it's like, I'm the head coach of the team, so if certain decisions get made, shouldn't I be the one know about this before other people know about this? But they have their moments, and everything where they go back and forth, but by the end, they end up on the same page. And because I feel like it could have gotten real ugly between the two of them if they decide to go a different route, but they don't. Like I say, they have their disagreements throughout, but at the end of the day, they do eventually end up on the same page. But let's talk about the late great Chadwick Boseman as Vontae Mack. And in this movie, you can clearly tell, like, Chadwick, that he was a star in the making. Just watching him in scenes and stuff like that, the way he carried himself, the way he emoted and everything, and how in some ways it's like, well, damn, if he wasn't, a football player as far as the character in the movie, he could have been a damn good, general manager or a scout, because there's a scene where him and Sonny are talking about another character in the movie who's named Bo Callahan, and he's supposed to be like the golden boy of the draft, and any franchise that's going to be taking him, the franchise will be set for life, and everything. But Vontae is the one who's kind of letting Sonny know, like, no, something ain't right with that boy, and you need to really look more into it and look at what happens after, because the whole thing that's kind of running through the movie is the fact that Vontae Mack sacked Bo Callahan in the game that they played against each other 4 times, even though Bo Callahan team wins the game and Bo Callahan throws, the game-winning touchdown. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And when Vontae kind of points this out to Sonny, and Sonny goes and look at the game tape, and it's like, no, you definitely right. And that's where things start to kind of spiral with the Bo Callahan character. Whatever. But going back to Chadwick, though, I mean, like I said, he is amazing in this movie. And like I said, 2014, this is during when he started his, as I like to refer to it, as his biopic run. Because, I mean, in a short span of time, he plays James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and Thurgood Marshall. And then he becomes Black Panther and everything. So, like I say, but 2014, like I say, is around the time when that biopic run starts for him. And it's just, like I say, it's sad kind of going back and watching him because of the fact that it's like Chadwick Boseman should still be with us, really, and everything. And not just as Black Panther, but as a actor, because he's really good. He was really good as an actor. He was truly great. And everything. And like I say, so it is kind of a little sad to go back and watch him in movies, because it's like, well, damn, he should still be here. And it's kind of the same way I feel about Heath Ledger in a way. Like, there's no reason why Chadwick Boseman nor Heath Ledger should not be here. And everything. They should be making great movies and continuously knocking out performances that, their fans truly enjoy and love and everything. But then a few other people that kind of stand out. Frank Langella, who plays the freaking owner of the Cleveland Browns, is a trip in this movie. And it's funny, I always refer to Frank Langella as alt-world Christopher Lee, because they both kind of have that same voice, that kind of deep commanding voice in a way. And they do kind of favor each other somewhat. And everything. But that's what I've always referred to him as. I mean, also I could always refer to him as Skeletor from Masters of the Universe, but I mean, he's always going to be, to me, alt-world Christopher Lee. Which he, like I said, he's good in this as the owner of the team, and he just wants his team, to be put in the best position to win. I mean, there is some Jerry Jones to him. The only difference is that he's not the general manager of the team, so that kind of goes out the window and everything. Terry Crews, who doesn't have a lot to do here, but him playing the father of a football player, because his character was a football player as well, and he played for the Cleveland Browns, and now his son is entering the draft, and he wants his son to play for the Cleveland Browns as well. And the fact that they got Arian Foster to play Terry Crews' son is kind of interesting and everything, because around this time Arian Foster was he was either winding down his career or he was getting ready to retire right at that time. So when I saw Arian Foster, I was like, well, damn, that's kind of a throwback, which is interesting because this movie came out 11 years ago, and just seeing Arian Foster is just like, well, damn, that kind of takes me back to when Arian Foster, he was one of the top running backs in the league for a minute and everything. So it was kind of funny seeing him. And then you got Tom Welling as Brian Drew, who's the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And I was like, damn, Tom Welling, he looks a lot like freaking Derek Carr in this movie, with the same haircut and the beard and everything. It was like, because at first I thought it was Derek Carr. At first I looked like, no, that's freaking Superman, Clark Kent. And everything. And I thought his performance in this is good also. Like I say, these are not big performances or anything throughout, no stretch of the matter, because their characters are like, they're pieces of the overall bigger puzzle and everything. But they do stand out in ways, because a lot of what decisions that Sonny make does affect these people's lives and everything. So the way the movie, like I say, the way it unfolds, it starts early in the morning. of course, and then it goes through all day and eventually into the draft that night. And just the way, like I say, we get all the stuff with Sonny dealing with his secret relationship with Allie, the whole thing of being in his father's shadow, because his father, Sonny Weaver, was the coach of the Cleveland Browns, and he actually passed away a year before the movie takes place. And it's always been this kind of rift thing of like animosity. People, had this thing against Sonny Weaver Jr. because of the fact that he fired his dad as the head coach. It is explained later in the movie by Sonny Weaver why he made the decision to fire his dad and everything like that, and the fact that he takes the blame for it all opposed to the real reason. I won't say what the real reason, because hopefully you guys do actually watch the movie, or if you did watch the movie before you listen to this episode and everything, just in case. But and then you have the whole thing dealing with his mom, Ellen Burstyn, who, I mean, she's always gonna be the mom from The Exorcist to me. And just her, I mean, she doesn't do like a full crash out on Sonny, even though she almost gets there, but she don't. But it is always a joy to see Ellen Burstyn in a movie, because I mean, she is a very good actress, and yeah, she, like I said, she is a very good actress, and it's one of those things where it's like her career should be bigger than what it is, even though she's been in a lot of top profile movies and stuff like that. But I always felt like when you say her name, if you say her name to certain people who, even though they watch movies, they might not know her name, but if you say, oh, that's the mom from The Exorcist, or or whatever, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I know who that is. But if you just say Ellen Burstyn, like, who, type of thing. And whenever that happens, it's like, all right, yeah, you don't really know ball, basically. But no, she does a great job here, and like the moments between her and Kevin Costner, I think, are really great, and everything. Also, one thing about this movie too that I enjoy is that they get a lot of the, talking sports stuff, and even the behind the scenes stuff. They get right, because some movies you can tell, like, yeah, they just making up bullshit when they talking, but the fact that they're talking like, it is actual draft day, and, give me the numbers on this. What was our salary cap going to be? And, talking this, that, and the third. They actually talk like, if you watching like sports insider shows or Hard Knocks or stuff like that, the way they talk about, you get a like behind the scenes look at how they talk when it comes to sports. That's pretty much what they do here, especially when they're talking about the sports stuff. And so it makes it feel like, yeah, I'm really watching in real time, like what goes on behind the scenes of an organization as they're, getting close to the actual draft, starting and everything. And then too, this movie does a really good job of balancing tension between what goes on in the front office and how it affects on field, because when things kind of get rolling after certain decisions get made, and the fact that Frank Langella, as the Browns owner, he gets it in his head, I'm going to the draft so I can give out, this jersey to this player that we're going to be taking. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I just made this deal and you already jumping the gun doing that and everything. And, it's just, how do you know that that's necessarily what I want to do? But it's like, well, he's the owner who's going to tell him no, even though Sonny does tell him no, in so many ways, and everything. But it's a real thing of where, like, yeah, a lot of times in sports, like, the front office can screw up a franchise just because of the decisions they make, behind the scenes. But of course, it's always the players and this, that, and that. In certain cases, I mean, there are some teams where it's like, no, the coach needs to be fired, or the general manager needs to be, be gone. President needs to be gone. What the hell is this owner doing? New Orleans Saints. I had to throw that in there, but yeah, you get that. A lot of sports where it's not always about the players. It's not always the player's fault, I should say, because a player that's not really good, it's not his fault that a team decides to be cheap to get him on the team, opposed to going after somebody that they know can actually help make the organization better because they don't want to spend the money on that player. And now I feel like I'm about to go down the road of, talking sports and go on a rant or whatever, and I'm not going to do that because that's not what this podcast is for. Maybe on a different podcast, but that's not what this podcast is for. But yeah, just overall, you do kind of get a behind the scenes glimpse of the decisions that get made behind the scenes. It truly does affect what happens on the field, good or bad, and everything. I will say this: one of the things that I was thoroughly impressed with this movie, and everything, is the touch of the split screen when Sonny's on the phone with different characters and how they kind of splice it in a way of where they're almost together, but they're not together. I really like how they do that. I mean, a few of those transition scenes that kind of stand out to me is the one where he calls Sam Elliott character, who was the coach of Bo Callahan in college, and when he turns and steps in, it's like his elbow actually comes into the scene, the side where Kevin Costner is, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on. And you realize it, and it's like, because I mean, there's a lot of split screens you get in movies. Certain movies does a lot of split screen stuff, but this was like the first movie where it's like they're actually in the same. It's like they're sharing the same space, even though we know they're not sharing the same space. Like I say, that's one of them. Another one is when Sonny's on the phone with, I can't remember if it's the Seattle GM or if it was who was the other one. I think I almost want to say it was the Saints, because the Saints representation gets is shown in this movie, but it was one of those. I can't remember exactly which one, but it's kind of a similar thing, because I know Sonny's walking down the hallway, but as he's walking down the hallway, it's like he's walking in the same space, like the office of who he's on the phone talking with, and everything. But I did like that, because it adds a little flavor and everything to the movie, and everything. And that's just me being into like certain stuff that goes on as far as filmmaking stuff. But that's why that kind of stands out to me. Let's see here. I would say that this movie, I mean, I think fans of football, fans of sports, I think will enjoy it. But I think also if you're not really a sports fan, and you just fans of actors in the movie, like if you like Kevin Costner or Jennifer Garner or, Chadwick Boseman, and everything, I think you would still enjoy this movie. And it doesn't beat you over the head with a lot of it is a sports heavy movie, but if you're not someone that's like truly diehard or whatever into sports, if you're more like a casual into sports, I think this is a easy movie to follow, because the overall story is not really about sports. It's about the decisions we make in our lives and how it affects us moving forward, and how it affects the people around us as well. It's like, yeah, I'm making this decision because I'm making a decision, but it also affects my family, it affects my friends, it affects my relationships, the people I work with. It affects everybody. And I think that is kind of an underlying message in the movie as well. It's like the decisions we make, how it affects everyone around us, and how relatable, it can be. You can take the sport. I would say this: you could take the story, the core of the story, and apply it to any other movie, really, because it's all about the decisions we make, and everything. Which I really enjoyed that aspect of it, of when you can take the core of a story and just uproot it and put it anywhere that at the end of the day, it is a good story to be told. And the fact that the movie doesn't truly rely on football, the actual game. Yeah, we get like certain moments showing like highlights of players playing and stuff like that, but other than that, I mean, you don't. It's a sports movie that's not really about the action on the field. Which, I mean, that's a risk to take, but I feel like they actually succeed with their risk, because it's more about, like I said earlier, it's more about the decisions you make. I mean, you got emotions, running high and everything, and then you have some really good performances throughout. Like I say, I would say if I had to pick like 3 strong performances in this movie, of course Kevin Costner, because I mean the movie does not work without him or the Sonny Weaver character. It does not work with that character if that character is not strong. Him, also Jennifer Garner. I mean, she's good in the role that she's playing here. And then, of course, Chadwick Boseman as Vontae Mack, because he has a lot of weight, on his shoulders, and the decisions, surrounding him as far as his draft stock and everything, and what people are saying about him. And, he's looking, to potentially get his family set for the rest of their life and everything. But he kind of is coming into this thing, with some baggage. Some of it not of his own doing, is just because when you sack the golden boy 4 times, people look at you a certain type of way, because they're so dead set on making another person, be such of a star and everything, that they're willing to crush you in a way. But yeah, I would say those are the 3 core performances that really stand out in this movie, and very much the reason to watch the movie is those 3 performances, I would say. And I do feel like this movie is underrated. I mean, granted, like I said, the movie is 11 years old. I heard about the movie and everything, but I never really had an interest in watching it. But for some reason, when I was coming up with, what movies to do for this month and everything, this movie kind of jumped off the page to me, as far as me going through looking at different movies that I want to choose for this month. It really jumped off the page, and I'm actually glad I did, because I really enjoyed the movie. And it is on Netflix. It will be leaving Netflix, but you have time. It doesn't leave Netflix until the end of this month, so you have time to watch it. And so I'm kind of glad I got it in when I did, because I would have been pissed if I decided to do sports movie month in July and I wanted to do this movie and it wasn't on Netflix. I was like, oh, but yeah, it's very much worth a watch, and it is underrated. I think it's underrated as not only a sports movie, but just as a, as a nice story that's being told. I think it's an underrated movie, and everything, but it's definitely one that should be watched and checked out and everything. So before I, end this or whatever, a couple of favorite scenes. Like I say, Vontae Mack, he has probably 2 major scenes for me in the movie. One where he's first introduced on the phone talking with Sonny Weaver, and about the fact that he wants to play for the Cleveland Browns and everything like that. It's just the back and forth between him and Kevin Costner, I think, is dope. But then also is the scene where he's with his nephews and they're at a tumbling competition thing, and he calls over one of his nephews that's kind of struggling a little bit, and he gives him a pep talk. And he's like, you got this. It's like, just do it like how you do it at home. And it's like, because at the same time, Vontae is dealing with the consequences of a decision that he made early in the movie because of emotion, and it's almost kind of coming back to bite him. So he's dealing with that, but he, at the same time, he's bottling that up and being able to give his nephew some sound advice, about, you got this, like, go out there and do what you know do what you know you can do and everything. And I really like that. Those are like 2 scenes that stand out. And then of course the final scene with him, I think is very good and touching and everything like that also. But I won't spoil what that is if you haven't seen the movie. But those 2 scenes are the ones that kind of stick out for me, and everything. And I will say this, Draft Day is a movie that definitely deserves a watch at least once. Like I say, if you're a sports fan, a non-sports fan, whatever, but if you just like movies like this and everything, if you just like a nice story or whatever, I think this is one to check out. And everything. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Next week's episode, I have said it a few times throughout. Next week's episode, I will be talking the movie Bull Durham. I am going to be joined by some guests to talk about that movie, and we're going to have some fun talking about Bull Durham, because it is one of probably my favorite Kevin Costner movies, and it's actually a sports movie that's actually grown on me. I will talk more about that when I record the episode and everything. I'll talk more about why Bull Durham has grown on me as a movie. So I will ask you guys, the listeners, of course, a question. I have one question. So what's your favorite behind the scenes sports movie? And everything. It doesn't have to be like full on like a movie that deals strictly with the sport. I mean, Moneyball is another one that kind of comes into play, but that movie, even though it's based on a true story, and everything, it focused a lot on the behind the scenes and how analytics starts to play a role in sports, with Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics at the time, whatever. But there is a lot of baseball being played in that movie, but that's one that kind of sticks out to me. As far as the question I'm asking, but there's other movies like that focus, behind the scenes and stuff like that. Any Given Sunday. I mean, granted, it focuses a lot on the field, but it focuses a lot off the field as well. So like I say, there are movies like that. So I'm just asking the question: what is your favorite behind the scenes sports movie? Of course, you can hit me up on the Twitter at either J Movie Talk, which is the movie podcast Twitter account, or my personal page, The J Jow, which I'm rarely on Twitter under my personal page. Anytime I mostly post is going to be from the movie page. But I'm also on Threads, J Movie Talk, or my personal page, The J Jows, and everything like that. Also, Movie Talk is on YouTube, so if you someone that is on YouTube, you can listen to the podcast on YouTube, everything like that. Be sure, if you are listening on YouTube, be sure to rate, follow, subscribe, and you can leave your comments in the comment section, and everything like that. And everything, I mean, of course, you can find Movie Talk a part of the TV Zone Podcast Network. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find us like that, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. Pretty much, like I said, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find the TV Zone Podcast Network, and you can listen to all the Movie Talk episodes like that. So I want to thank everyone once again for listening to this episode. I will be back for the next episode to talk about another Kevin Costner movie, baseball movie at that, talking about Bull Durham. I will be having a couple of guests on to talk about that movie. So until next time, thank you guys again for listening, and peace.